After the feast, when every heart was warming to the joys of genial Bacchus, then one of the dinner companions asked Perseus, "Now, valiant Perseus, pray tell the story of the deed, that all may know, and what arts and power prevailed when you struck off the serpent-covered head." Perseus then narrates how he came through lost and arduous paths and terrors within the entangled forests to the Gorgon's house. And along the way, in fields and by the roads, he saw on all sides men and animals, like statues, turned to flinty stone at sight of dreadful Medusa's visage. "Nevertheless," he continued, "reflected on the brazen shield I bore upon my left, I saw her horrid face, when she was helpless in the power of sleep, and even her serpent hair was slumber-bound. I struck and took her head sheer from the neck. To winged Pegasus the blood gave birth, his brother also, twins of rapid wing." One of the presents interrupts and asks then why Medusa alone of the three sisters had snakes in her hair. And he replied, "Because, O stranger, it is your desire to learn what worth is for me to tell. Hear the cause. Beyond all others she was famed for beauty, and the envious hope of many suitors. Words would fail to tell the glory of her hair, most wonderful of all her charms. A friend declared to me he saw its lovely splendor. Fame declares Poseidon, the sovereign of the sea, attained her love in chaste Minerva's temple. While in rage, she turned her head away and held her shield before her eyes. To punish that great crime, Minerva changed the Gorgon's splendid hair into horrible serpents. And now, to strike her foes with fear, she wears upon her breast those awful vipers, creatures of her rage." Hi, my name is Roberta Jones, and I look at the past to see into the future. In this episode, I'll be telling you all about an icon who's very dear to my heart. A strong and at the same time vulnerable woman whose figure has taken different shapes and roles throughout the centuries. From protective, caring goddess to horrifying evil monster, her image has suffered a radical transformation over time because she was feared by men and couldn't thrive in a patriarchal society. You've probably already heard her name or seen her face on Versace's fancy bags. Yes, I'm talking about Medusa. I'm going to suggest a renewed understanding of her throughout some beautiful, insightful texts I found and modern points of view. There has been a clear male narrative of myths and history over time. In Western culture, strong women have been seen as threats, requiring male conquest and control. And the myth of Medusa that has come down to us, unfortunately, reflects that. So my purpose here is to retell the story of Medusa from a feminist, or rather, let's say female, perspective. Also, this is a very special episode because we have as a guest Luciano Garbati, who is the sculptor of the very famous statue Medusa with Head that has become the symbol of the Me Too movement. So you'll be able to hear his thoughts very soon. At the start of this episode, you heard an excerpt from Ovid's Metamorphosis, recounting how Perseus managed to kill the dangerous Medusa and how she was transformed from beautiful nymph to ugly monster. Since then, Medusa has been viewed as this beautiful but also dangerous woman that had to be crushed at all costs. However, her image couldn't be killed. She has remained irresistibly attractive and has been captured in various shapes and forms by countless of great artists. For example, Bernini, Caravaggio, Cellini, and many, many others. In fact, she is so fascinating that Versace chose to make her the logo of its very prestigious brand. And it worked. I'm going to start this journey through the metamorphosis of Medusa with a very famous work of art, since figurative art has the great gift of helping us visualize difficult concepts, like patriarchy, for example. The masterpiece I'm talking about is a tall, imposing bronze statue called Perseus with the Head of Medusa by Benvenuto Cellini. It has a prime position in the Piazza della Signoria in Florence, opposite Michelangelo's David. Tourists are more interested in taking selfies with the naked, muscular David, but Cellini's gory statue of Perseus with the head of Medusa gushing blood, sculpted in the mid-16th century, tells a more intriguing story. Perseus here looks not so much like a hero as a ferocious assassin. He's standing on Medusa's lifeless body, holding up her head as a trophy. Cellini chooses to represent a very specific moment of the murder, the moment immediately after. Even more interesting here is that the statue was commissioned by Cosimo I de' Medici when he became Duke of Florence, after a period of experimental republic in the city. And this was his way of saying, "The Medicis are back, and I've put an end to this revolting republic." In line with Cosimo's intentions, Medusa and her head of writhing snakes symbolize the republic, a different society and a political threat, together with the classical interpretation of a terrifying sexual threat. This statue quite clearly embodies these two faces of Medusa, her being a woman with all that this entails, and her being a revolution. Men seem to have confused the political threat with a sexual one. The story of the evolution of the myth of Medusa particularly shows this confusion. What appears to be a sexual threat in regard to Medusa's head of snakes and her power to turn anyone that looks at her into stone is actually a political threat of a different society that Medusa represents. These sentiments were popularized during the Renaissance by Machiavelli, who in The Prince alluded to the Medusa icon when he described the state as a woman, without head, without order, beaten, despoiled, torn, desperate for a manly rescuer. According to Ovid's Metamorphosis, Medusa was a beautiful maiden with thick, luminous hair. She was so beautiful that even Poseidon, the god of the sea, could not resist her beauty. And as if it were his right, he raped her in the temple of Athena. When Athena learnt about the rape, she decided that the real violator of her sacred place was not the rapist, the god, but instead the violated woman. Sounds familiar? What was she wearing, Athena might have asked, to be able to enchant a god? It must have been something about her. Medusa's beautiful thick hair turned into horrible snakes, and from then on, she would turn anyone that looked at her into stone, until the day Perseus, son of Zeus, found her asleep and cut off her head. But the figure of Medusa is multi-layered and dates further back than that of the classicist patriarchal Greek society. According to Miriam Dexter in an article called The Ferocious and the Erotic, the myth of Medusa is a compilation of Neolithic European, Semitic and Indo-European mythology and iconography. Two very different depictions appear in this wider iconography. The Neolithic goddess of birth, death and regeneration, who is represented either with a bird, a snake, or a combination of the two, as death and birth are combined in her figure. And a Near Eastern demon called Umbaba, whose severed head is used, like Medusa's head, in a protective manner. In Greek, the name Medusa means she who cares for, who protects. Medusa is a primordial divinity, linked to a society which we do not know much about, but which still contained within it a substratum that we can define as matriarchal and therefore protective in origin. Although Medusa is commonly regarded as a monster, her head is often seen as a protective amulet that would keep evil away. The image of Medusa's head can be seen in numerous Greek and subsequent Roman artifacts, such as shields, breastplates, and mosaics. In Greece and Turkey, she adorns ancient doorways and pathways as a protectress. So Medusa is indeed ferocious, but also ancestrally a healer and a protectress, whose death protects from all deaths. In their myths and societal evolution, the Greeks maintained very little of this ambiguity. The poet Pindar described Medusa as a beautiful, fair-cheeked lady, which underlines the connection between beauty and fatality. Beauty, like monstrosity, enthralls, and female beauty was perceived, and is still unfortunately perceived, to be both enchanting and dangerous, or even fatal. This sexual threat is bound to a political threat. The fear of Medusa's beauty is in fact the fear of a different society, maybe a matriarchal one? And in this fear of the ancient ambivalent figure of Medusa, the Greeks chose to tell, or ended up telling anyway, just a part of the myth. As Mary Beard argues in her book, Women and Power, Medusa overturns the female role, She's not the watched, nor the looked at. Quite the contrary, she is the one looking. Beard links this aspect to modern feminism and adds that Medusa's gaze is in fact not only terrifying, sexually and politically, but it is also creative, as she creates a place of power for women. She says, quote, "I've talked before about the ways women get silenced in public discourse, and there's plenty of that silencing still going on. The right to be heard is crucially important, exploring how and why the conventional definitions of power, or of knowledge, expertise, and authority, have tended to exclude women. We have no template for what a powerful woman looks like, and the shared metaphors, whether conscious or not, we use of female access to power, knocking on the door, storming the citadel, smashing the glass ceiling, underline female exteriority." Mary Beard retraces where our templates usually come from, and in sometimes quite shocking ways. She says we are still using Greek idioms to represent the idea of women in and out of power. In real life, the women of ancient Greece had no formal political rights and little economic or social independence. The Greek imagination has offered us a series of unforgettable women of power, of course. Medea, Clytemnestra, Antigone. However, for the most part, these powerful women are portrayed as abusers rather than users of power. If we go back to the beginnings of Western history, according to the scholars I have mentioned, we find a radical separation, real, cultural, and imaginary, between women and power. If women are not perceived to belong in structures of power, it is power that we need to redefine rather than women. In this sense, we can talk about the creative glance of Medusa. In the moment she creates a place of power for women, in the moment she looks at men and shows the role we want. First, to be listened to. In so many paintings, we see a woman caught by the male gaze while she bathes, dresses, or rests. Medusa overturns this theme with her gaze that turns men into stone, and therefore obliges men to rethink their relationship with the feminine figure. Now, to be more specific, Medusa comes to represent a subversive female who is capable of making a man the object of her gaze. And it is this capacity which decenters and undermines the power of a man and which eventually turns him into stone. Medusa again became a symbol of a monstrously feminized republic during the French Revolution. In 1791, Marie Antoinette appeared as a beastly Medusa in the print Les Deux ne font qu'un. And in the early 20th century, Sigmund Freud notably used the myth of Medusa to explain his concept of castration anxiety. And as women fought for the right to vote, suffragettes were linked to the figure of Medusa. Medusa's story as a beautiful young woman, protectress and rape victim had been erased from the cultural consciousness. She has simply become a woman with a terrifying potential power to emasculate men. Indeed, as recently as 2016, Hillary Clinton was linked to Medusa. Now, without getting into the many public details of Clinton and the American 2016 elections, what interests me here is a drawing based on Cellini's famous statue showing Trump as Perseus holding Clinton's head. Now, the image went viral around that time and did not really create the big scandal that it should have done. The representation of Clinton as the defeated, beheaded Medusa really reinforces the fact that men are still really terrified of women if they need to exorcise powerful women by representing a potential female leader with her head chopped off. Clinton looks mad and hysterical, with her mouth open and wild eyes. Someone so unstable you couldn't possibly vote for. On the contrary, Trump has the calm and collected look of a leader. A male one, of course. Basically, the message is that since Clinton is anything but passive, she should not exist on the political playing field and certainly cannot be president. Just like Medusa, Hillary Clinton is seen as a dangerous woman, one that must be locked up to make the world safe for male patriarchy once again. Thankfully, there is another, more recent reproduction of Cellini's statue by Argentinian-Italian artist Luciano Garbati that is profoundly different from the original one as it completely reverses the myth. It is Medusa with the head of Perseus. It is the revenge of Medusa, or rather what if Medusa had won? Medusa is standing tall and naked with the head of Perseus in her right hand and a sword in the left. She is not standing triumphant on his putrefied body, unlike Cellini's original, and she keeps Perseus's head down. She doesn't display it or hold it up in front of her as a trophy. Her look is determined and aware of her actions, as if she had to do it to liberate herself from her oppressor. This statue was made in 2008, but wasn't known to the public until 2018, when a picture of the statue with the tag, "Be thankful, we only want equality and not payback," went viral on social media. After that, Medusa with the head of Perseus became the centerpiece of an art exhibition in New York, and later a bronze replica of the statue was placed in Collect Pond Park, facing the New York County Criminal Building, where Harvey Weinstein was sentenced for sexual assault on countless women. The statue evidently aims to reverse the social roles and status of the myth, and ever since it has been linked to the Me Too movement. However, many critics have had concerns about the rhetorical device of reversal. By exchanging the role of victim for that of executioner, the modality of the relationship between the subjects remain the same. One head always jumps off. We always remain within a relationship of domination. Justice is confused with revenge, and violence remains legitimized. The myth itself comes to our aid with its long and deep memory. Medusa's power is great. The contemporary statue wants to highlight it. The way it was done is a tricky one, because the question of justice within the Me Too movement cannot be reduced to payback. Also, following Beard's point, feminist thought is radical, outside relational and social models based on relations of domination. The power and empowerment that result from feminism's elaboration of the world are other than revenge, violence, and asphyxiating patriarchal binarisms. However, I personally really love Medusa with head because when you look at it, it really makes you stop, pause, and think. You're forced to leave the field of known and acquired data about Medusa that was unconsciously naturalized. And also, what is interesting among all these critics that have talked about Luciano Garbati's statue, Medusa with head, is that nobody ever cried assassin at the representation of Perseus. Nobody asked if Cellini's statue was maybe too cruel, just as nobody opposed the fact that Perseus also petrified his enemies, using Medusa's head, by the way, lovely metaphor of women at service. The statue may be violent and revengeful, but it also makes you question violence and the perception of power in itself. Sometimes, in order to show the powerful that they are abusing their power, you have to show them what it's like to be represented as the weak and the abused. Among all the current debates around the statue, power, and feminism, one thing is sure. Centuries of depicting Medusa as a monster are over. Women are changing the narrative, and as Six has said, she is beautiful and she's laughing. So today I have the honor of speaking to Luciano Garbati, who is an Italian-Argentinian artist specialized in sculpture. Luciano, he has been exhibiting all over the world, and I love his sculptures because they are kind of interesting fusion in between, classical tradition sculpture and abstract, interesting shapes. So he constantly creates this dialogue in between the past, the present, the future, which we like very much at Roberta Jones. So, hi, Luciano.
Hi, Roberta. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks. And thank you for inviting me to this podcast of yours.
No,
thank you very much.
It's an honor. So in particular, I've asked you to come today because the podcast is about Medusa, and you are very famous for a statue called Medusa with head that reverses the famous Cellini statue, Perseus with the head of Medusa, which we've been talking about a lot in the podcast.
I have to stop you here. I'm sorry, but I'm not famous. She's famous.
You're not famous. Yes. Okay, well, yeah, I think you're pretty famous in the art world.
Well, we'll see that. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, she's famous. We can say that for sure. I mean,
we can say yes. Medusa with head is very famous, almost by chance. Also,
yes. Well, that's intriguing. I mean, it's like a peculiar story. I mean, I'm still struggling to believe that actually happened.
Yes,
because
the
I made the sculpture
in.
Yes, I made the sculpture in 2008, so 14 years ago, and the sculptures stood there in my studio like invisible for everyone, almost everyone. I mean, my friends, my family, and some art collectors that had the chance to see her there in my studio. But well, she stood there like. And eventually in 2018, I decided to post her like I did with the other sculptures on Facebook, like 2 pictures of it. And well, it was like quite thrilling to see in real time the viralization of the image throughout all the social media. It was amazing to see that. And I think it's obvious the context in 2018 was quite different, and feminism was there like very strong, in a very strong position. And I think that the image was taken as a sort of symbol of the struggles and the fight of women for gaining new rights.
It was just after the Me Too movement, so it was perfect in that context of the Me Too movement.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's time, right? It's right time at the right moment. And
I mean, she had to wait like 10 years, but her time came eventually.
Yes, they were avant-garde in a sense. But I think if it went viral, it's because it really responded to the time. No, it reflected the need of the time. It encapsulated that thing that was happening very clearly.
I think so. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's why it was so strong, because a statue so famous like Perseus with the head of Medusa that is overturned, it's very strong. So how did you have the inspiration in the first place to reverse Cellini's statue?
Well, I mean, I don't think I was reversing his statue. I was reversing the narrative. Some people says that I was engaging directly with the Cellini, and I wouldn't say that, because I mean, that's a masterpiece which I admire like I would say some like 10 sculptures in art history. So that's one of my top sculptures, and yeah, I wouldn't engage with him directly. It's the narrative of the myth, and especially the narrative of Ovid's version of the myth, because the myth, like any other myth, has an evolution and it changes throughout time. Mm-hmm. And new perspectives are given from time to time, and it's like a dynamic entity, a myth. Well, I thought that particular version, the Ovid's one, could be understood as a tragic story, and the tragic character was Medusa. So I wanted to do something with the myth. I mean, a sculpture of mine, and eventually I thought it was better to focus on Medusa, because she was the tragic character, the suffered one, and I wanted to give her like a new life, mm-hmm. And thinking on the myth, thinking on all the version versions of it in which you can see the victorious Perseus. I said, well, that's enough. I mean, too many victorious Perseus all over there. I would like to imagine something else. And well, that's when I thought it was interesting to think, to try to imagine a sculpture depicting Medusa, but Medusa having survived the fight with Perseus. That's what I wanted to do, imagining the character in that. Well, sorry, what?
To give her justice, you wanted to.
Well, yes. I'm not sure what if I was thinking particularly in justice. I was thinking on her and her. Yes, fighting for her life. That's what she did. She was fighting for her life, to keep her life, and well, it was then understood from the perspective of justice, women justice, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But that's what I was trying to do when I started working on my sculpture, my Medusa.
And at the time, you didn't know that already there were some scholars that saw Medusa as the symbol of the feminine gaze.
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't. Well, I have to say that I learned a lot of things after all these events in relation with my sculpture. Yes, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, it was intuitive in a way.
Yes, I could say that. Yes.
Yeah, because after the temporary exhibition in New York, okay, so initially the picture went viral of the Medusa on social media saying, "Be thankful, we only want equality and not payback," right? Already,
that was the meme. Yeah.
The meme, yeah. It was very provocative, yeah. So then it went on to this temporary exhibition, and then it ended up in front of the County Court of New York, where Harvey Weinstein was sentenced for justice, let's say, sentenced for his sexual assaults.
Yes.
Was that also by chance that it ended up there in front of?
It wasn't by chance, but I didn't know at that time that Harvey Weinstein was going to be tried there. I wanted something with a meaning related to the sculpture, and I found this park. It's a small park called Collect Pond, which is surrounded by all the criminal court, the family court, and the civil court of the state of New York. And well, that made sense because it was the sculpture had been related to justice. Then those were buildings in which actual justice was imparted. So that made sense. But there was also a detail, a quote engraved in one of the buildings in the criminal court, which goes something like equal and exact justice for all men of whatever state or persuasion. So all men. And when I read that, I said, well, this is the spot. I found that place significant in relation with the sculpture. And we were chosen, and that particular spot was given to us. It was amazing.
And from then on, the Medusa has become, the symbol of Me Too, right? Even more.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And it's funny that I've read that there are some critiques, connected to the statue that say, feminism can't be reduced to payback or revenge. Some people saying that it was too Eurocentric because Me Too was created by an Afro-American. Some people said stuff like, she doesn't have enough pubic hair. Stuff like that. How did you react to those criticisms?
Well, the thing is that there were some critics that were not pertinent. Why? Because it wasn't done, the sculpture wasn't done as a monument to the Me Too movement. In a way, she was chosen as a symbol. So I understand the critic. If because one of those was that I was a man, and a man creating a monument for the Me Too was a nonsense, and I agree with that. But it wasn't the case. I mean, I didn't make a monument for the Me Too. I made a sculpture, and eventually that sculpture gained a sense that I didn't even imagine at the time I made it.
I mean, real feminists would say, in the end, it doesn't matter, who made it. Like,
I mean, again, it's not the aim of art to satisfy everybody's taste, or this is the time for critics to show themselves. I mean, we have all the means to do so, and get furious about some things, and that is part of the game. I mean, I'm very happy and also thrilled by the fact that she was chosen as a symbol, and that's it. I mean, the rest I tried not to care about it.
So I think it does make you. I think it does reflect, especially in that time, 2018, the feminist spirit in a good way.
Absolutely. And that's something amazing. I mean, I found that that event amazing. Because I wasn't expecting this outcome for the sculpture when I did it.
Yeah, and I know also some people tattoo your Medusa. They have it, right?
That's incredible. I mean, it's incredible, and I'm still getting. People ask me if they can have it tattooed in their bodies. I say yes, of course. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but please send me a picture. So I have like 100 pictures of different tattoos.
It's nice that they ask you. They're like, I don't want to pay right if I tattoo.
Well, that's what. No, I mean, it's more for like they are being polite with me, and they know that's what I do for a living, and I really appreciate the gesture. And the only thing I ask in return is a picture of the tattoo, because I love to see them.
And if someone wants to see your Medusa in person, now you're preparing for an exhibition, right?
Yes. And this is like I'm adding another episode to the story, the amazing, the fascinating story of this sculpture. Until now, it was like more like a social approach, to the sculpture. There is more of a social perspective surrounding the sculpture. But now she will be exhibited in a museum, in an art museum in France, in the city of Caen. Yes, I don't know the pronunciation.
So people maybe might come and see the exhibition.
Yes, absolutely. You're all invited. I mean. It would be a great exhibition because it is all devoted to the character of Medusa throughout art history. So you have art pieces from the 8th century before Christ to the contemporary art. And there are some amazing sculptures involved and also paintings Bernini's bust of Medusa.
Yes. Normally it's in the Capitoline museums.
Yes, in Rome. Absolutely. That one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if there's some noise. That's my baby crying. I'm so sorry about that. But,
no worries, I can't hear.
As well. Okay. Also, Benvenuto Cellini's sketch for his Perseus, which is exhibited in the Bargello Museum in Florence. Rubens' painting of the decapitated head of Medusa, that's in Vienna. Damien Hirst, Medusa, Giacometti's one. I mean, Rodin's Perseus. There are a lot of works involved, and also mine. I mean, it's like a dream. It's a dream. It's impossible to imagine something like that when you are working, in your studio in Buenos Aires, like I did at that time. So it's
Beautiful.
amazing.
Do you have a date for when will the exhibition?
Yes.
Will it be
The
May
opening will be on May the 13th, and it will be open until September the 18th.
Great. Okay.
So, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Bernini. I mean, I love him. I love his work. I love his art since I was a child. So it's really a dream come true.
Yeah. It must be an amazing exhibition.
I feel blessed by this opportunity I have been given because of my sculpture.
But it fits. It really fits in this exhibition. Your Medusa with her. It could not be there.
It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Luciano, for taking the time to meet me. It was an honor to speak with you. And do you have anything else to say? One last thing.
Well, I said I felt blessed. But it was even before, because as I said before, I think I could learn a lot of things because of this whole experience. And yes, I think we are given a great opportunity to change a lot of things, and we should all think about that and try to make everything better. Because unfortunately, there is so much injustice all over there. So yes, that's what I feel, and it helped me a lot, to see things that I wasn't seeing at the time. So
that's a beautiful way to finish an interview. Thank you for this inspiring talk, Luciano. Until next time.
Thank you, Roberta. Thank you so much for the opportunity of being here with you and having this conversation. Thank you.
You've just listened to Roberta Jones, Looking at the Past to See into the Future, a podcast created by me and Berardo Carboni, written in collaboration with Angelica Andretto. This podcast is sponsored by Herbs Travel. Their smart city guides are the best way to learn about the history, culture, and cuisine of Europe's most iconic cities. Soundtrack, editing, and sound design by Matteo D'Alessandro.